New CEO fired me for helping my cousin. During a panic attack, said, "That's not my problem." He fired me. Just like that. After all I'd done for that company, for everyone there, and for what? Helping my own cousin when she needed me most. Was I wrong to put family first? He looked right at me, ice in his eyes, and said, "That's not my problem." What kind of person says that? And what was he hiding? Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a story that still makes my blood boil. It's about a new CEO, a panic attack, and a betrayal so deep it shook my entire world. I'm not talking about some corporate thriller. This is my life, and it happened right here in Minneapolis. A family crisis at work leads to a firing, but that's just the surface. What I uncovered afterward? It was chilling. This is a story of data breaches, ruthless ambition, and a cover-up that almost cost me everything. Buckle up because you won't believe what this new CEO was really up to, and the lengths he would go to protect his secret. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this. The office lights flickered as rain lashed against the windows. My desk, usually a meticulously organized space, was now a chaotic jumble of files and half-empty coffee cups. I worked as the benefits coordinator at a mid-sized marketing firm, a job I genuinely loved. Until he arrived. The new CEO, Mr. Harding. He swept in like a storm, all sharp angles and colder-than-ice pronouncements. My cousin, Sarah, also worked at the company, in the creative department. We were close, practically sisters. She'd been struggling with anxiety for years, and sometimes it just hit her hard. That day was one of those days. I heard the commotion from my office, a choked sob, a hurried whisper. I rushed out to find Sarah, her face pale, clutching her chest, hyperventilating. "Sarah, what's wrong?" I asked, kneeling beside her. She could barely speak. "Can't breathe. Meeting. Harding." Mister, that was all I needed to hear. He had been pushing the team hard, demanding impossible deadlines. "Everyone back to work," he barked, emerging from the conference room. He saw Sarah, then glanced at me, his expression hardening. "What's going on here?" "She's having a panic attack," I explained, trying to keep my voice even. "She needs some air, a little space." "Panic attack?" he sneered. "Sounds like weakness to me. This is a business, not a therapy session. Get back to work, both of you." My blood ran cold. "She needs help," I insisted, ignoring his dismissive tone. "I'm going to take her outside." He rolled his eyes. "Fine, but don't expect any extra time for lunch. And don't let it happen again. This isn't my problem." His words stung. "That's not my problem." How could he be so callous? I helped Sarah outside, guiding her to a quiet bench in a nearby park. We sat in silence as I coached her through her breathing exercises. The rain had stopped, leaving a glistening sheen on the leaves. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'd be okay," I said, but I squeezed her hand, offering a reassuring smile. "But I'm always here for you. Family first, right?" We returned to the office an hour later, Sarah looking much better. I braced myself for a reprimand from Mr. Harding, but he didn't say a word. I thought maybe he'd just forgotten about it. I was wrong. 2 days later, I was called into his office. The air was thick with tension. He didn't even look up as I sat down. "Close the door," he said, his voice flat. My stomach clenched. This wasn't going to be good. "I've been reviewing your performance," he began, "and I've decided to terminate your employment, effective immediately." I stared at him, stunned. "What? Terminate my... Why?" "Your actions on Tuesday were unacceptable," he said, his gaze unwavering. "Prioritizing personal matters over company business. Taking excessive time away from your duties. It's a clear violation of company policy." "But Sarah was having a panic attack," I protested. "She needed help. What was I supposed to do, ignore her?" "That's not my problem," he repeated. Those same chilling words. I stood there, speechless, as he handed me a pink slip. Everything I had worked for, All the dedication I had shown, gone, just like that. For helping my cousin. Could you believe that? I walked out of the office in a daze, the pink slip clutched in my hand. Sarah was waiting for me, her face etched with worry. What happened? She asked, her voice trembling. I showed her the slip. Her eyes widened in horror. He fired you? Because of me? It's not your fault, I said, trying to reassure her, but inside I was seething. This wasn't just about me losing my job. It was about Mr. Harding's complete lack of empathy, his blatant disregard for his employees' well-being. I left the office that day feeling betrayed, not just by Mr. Harding, but by the entire company. Was there nothing I could do? That evening, I told my husband, Mark, everything. He was furious. That's outrageous, he exclaimed, pacing the living room. You can't let him get away with this. We need to talk to a lawyer. I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. I think you're right. This isn't fair. We spent the stress was overwhelming. Sleep was a luxury I could no longer afford. Then, one evening, while I was sorting through some old files, I stumbled upon something unexpected. A vendor contract for employee assistance programs, specifically mental health services. It was dated a few months before Mr. Harding arrived. I started reading through the fine print, and my blood ran cold. There was a clause that allowed the company to share anonymized employee data with a third-party marketing firm. Anonymized, I wondered. How anonymized could it really be? I knew that Mr. Harding was obsessed with data. He believed that everything could be quantified, analyzed, and optimized. Was he using employee therapy data to boost the company's profits? Was that the real reason he fired me? Because I was a threat to his little scheme? I felt a surge of anger, but also a sense of determination. This was more than just about my job. This was about protecting the privacy and well-being of my colleagues. I found something, I said, my voice trembling with excitement. Something big. I think I know why Harding really fired me. I met him for lunch at a small cafe near his office. The mismatched chairs and the smell of roasted coffee were a welcome distraction from the turmoil in my mind. I handed him the contract. He scanned it quickly, his brow furrowing. This is disturbing, he said, but it doesn't prove anything. It just allows them to share data. But what if he's not just sharing data, I asked. What if he's using it to discriminate against employees, to fire people who are deemed too risky because they seek mental health treatment? Mark leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. That would be illegal, but we need proof. Proof. That was the key. How could I prove that Mr. Harding was abusing employee data? I felt lost and powerless, unsure of where to turn. A few days later, Mark came home looking grim. I talked to a friend of mine, he said. He works in IT security. He said there's a way to access the company's email server, but it's risky. If you get caught... I don't care about the risk, I interrupted. I need to know the truth. That night, under the cover of darkness, I did something I never thought I was capable of. With Mark's friend's help, I hacked into the company's email server. It felt surreal. The system was complex, a labyrinth of folders and files. I spent hours searching, filtering, and analyzing, my heart pounding in my chest. I was looking for any communication between Mr. Harding and the marketing firm, anything that would indicate that he was using employee therapy data for nefarious purposes. An email chain between Mr. Harding and the CEO of the marketing firm. They were discussing specific employees, referencing their therapy sessions, and outlining strategies to optimize their performance. It was blatant, undeniable proof. I copied the emails to a secure drive, then quickly logged out of the system, my hands shaking. I had the evidence I needed. I couldn't wait to confront Mr. But Mark cautioned me. Don't do anything rash, he said. We need to be smart about this. We need to go to the authorities. He was right. I couldn't risk jeopardizing our case by acting impulsively, but waiting was agonizing. It was from Sarah. I need to talk to you, she said, her voice urgent. It's about Mr. Harding. We met at a different cafe, this one smaller and more secluded. Sarah looked pale and nervous. He called me into his office this morning, she began. He offered me your job. My jaw dropped. He what? He said he was impressed with my work and that he thought I had the potential to be a great benefits coordinator. He said he knew it would be difficult for me, especially after what happened to you, but that he believed in me. I stared at her, stunned. He was trying to replace me with my own cousin. That was low, even for him. What did you say? I asked, my voice tight. I don't know what to do, she said, tears welling up in her eyes. I need this job. We need the money, but I don't want to betray you. I took a deep breath. Don't worry about me, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. You have to do what's best for you. But please, be careful. Don't trust him. Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. I won't, she promised. I promise. I left the cafe feeling heartbroken, not just because of my job, but because of the situation Sarah was in. Mr. Harding was manipulating her, using her vulnerability against her. How could I protect her? That evening, I received another unexpected visit. This time, it was from my husband's best friend, Tom. Tom was a lawyer, and he had been helping us with our case. I need to talk to you about something, he said, his expression grave. We sat down in the living room, and he took a deep breath. I've been reviewing the vendor contract, he began, and I noticed something interesting. He pulled out a copy of the contract and pointed to a signature. This is your husband's signature, isn't it? I looked closely. It was Mark's signature, all right, but it was on a clause that I had never seen before. A clause that gave the company the right to share employee data with the marketing firm without their consent. What is this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. It looks like your husband approved this contract, Tom said. He signed off on it. My world tilted. Mark? My own husband? He knew about this? He had approved a contract that allowed Mr. Harding to abuse employee data. There has to be a mistake, I said, shaking my head in disbelief. Mark would never do something like this. Tom looked at me sadly. I'm sorry, he said, but the signature is his, and I've confirmed it with the company. He knew about this. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. How could Mark do this? Why would he keep it a secret from me? Was he involved in Mr. Harding's scheme? I waited for Mark to come home that night, my heart pounding in my chest. I know about the contract, I said, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. I know you signed off on it. He froze, his face paling. What are you talking about? He stammered. I showed him the contract. He stared at it in silence for a long moment. Then, I can explain, he said. Explain what? I demanded. Explain why you betrayed me. Explain why you helped Mr. Harding abuse employee data. He took a deep breath. It was a long time ago, he began. Before Mr. Harding came along. I was just starting out at the firm, trying to make a good impression. My boss asked me to sign off on the contract, and I didn't really read it. I just trusted him. I didn't realize what it meant. You didn't realize? I scoffed. You signed a contract that allowed the company to share sensitive employee data without their consent. How could you not realize? He hung his head. I was young and stupid, he said. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I stared at him, tears streaming down my face. So you knew about all of this, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You knew that Mr. Harding was abusing employee data, and you didn't tell me? You let me get fired. He reached out to touch me, but I recoiled. I was going to tell you, he said. I swear, but I was afraid. I didn't want you to hate me. Hate you, I cried. I trusted you, I loved you, and you betrayed me. I turned and ran out of the house, leaving him standing there, alone. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay there, not for another minute. I spent the night at Sarah's apartment, sobbing uncontrollably. She held me in her arms, offering words of comfort. But nothing could ease the pain. My husband, the man I had loved and trusted, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. How could I ever forgive him? How could I ever trust him again? I knew I couldn't stay in Minneapolis, not anymore. Everything here was tainted by betrayal and deceit. I needed to start over, somewhere new. I packed my bags, sold my house, and booked a one-way ticket to, well, it doesn't matter where. The important thing is that I left. I left behind the job I had loved, the city I had called home, and the man I had thought I would spend the rest of my life with. Before I left, I contacted the authorities and provided them with the evidence I had gathered. They launched an investigation into Mr. Harding and the marketing firm. I don't know what happened to him in the end. I didn't want to know. I just wanted to move on with my life. As for Mark, I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive him. Maybe someday, but not today. The trust is broken, and I don't know if it can ever be repaired. Starting over wasn't easy. I had to find a new job, a new place to live, new friends. But I was determined to make a new life for myself, one that was free from betrayal and deceit. I found a job as a benefits consultant at a small nonprofit organization. The work wasn't as glamorous as my old job, but it was fulfilling. I was helping people who really needed it, and that made all the difference. I also started volunteering at a local mental health clinic. I wanted to use my experience to help others who were struggling with anxiety and depression. I knew what it was like to feel lost and alone, and I wanted to make sure that no one else had to go through that. Slowly but surely, I began to heal. I learned to trust again, to love again, and to believe in myself again. I realized that I was stronger than I thought I was, and that I could overcome anything, as long as I had the courage to keep going. Years later, I received an email from Sarah. She had left the company shortly after I did, and she had started her own creative agency. She was doing well, and she was happy. She thanked me for being there for her when she needed me most, and she said that she would always be grateful for our friendship. Reading her email brought tears to my eyes. I realized that even though I had lost so much, I had also gained something valuable. I had gained a deeper understanding of myself, a stronger sense of purpose, and a renewed appreciation for the importance of family and friendship. It wasn't easy, but I survived. I rebuilt my life, and I came out stronger on the other side. And that, my friends, is a success story in itself. So, what would you have done in my shoes? Would you have forgiven Mark? Would you have stayed in Minneapolis and fought back? Tell me in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of betrayal, resilience, and second chances. Thanks for watching. The silence in my new apartment was deafening. It was smaller than my old place, less luxurious, but it was mine, a clean slate. But the echo of Mark's betrayal still bounced off the walls. How could someone you trusted more than anyone stab you in the back like that? Did he ever really love me? I replayed our years together in my mind, searching for clues, for signs that I had missed. Was our entire relationship a lie? I found myself staring out the window for hours, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. Each light represented a life, a story, and mine had just been completely rewritten. One rainy morning, months after settling in, I received a letter, an official-looking envelope with the logo of a law firm I didn't recognize. My heart skipped a beat. More bad news? I carefully opened the letter. It was an invitation to testify in a class action lawsuit against Mr. Harding and the marketing firm. Apparently, the authorities had uncovered even more evidence of their illegal activities. Other employees, many more than I imagined, had been affected by their data abuse. People whose lives had been negatively impacted because of Mr. Harding's greed. The letter explained that my testimony could be crucial to the case. It could help ensure that Mr. Harding and his accomplices were held accountable for their actions. But it also meant reliving the trauma, facing my past. Would I be strong enough to do it? Could I stand up in court and recount the events that had shattered my life? I wrestled with the decision for days. I thought about Sarah, about the other employees who had been wronged. I thought about Mark, about the pain he had caused. and I realized that I couldn't let fear hold me back. I had to do this, not just for myself, but for everyone who had been victimized. I called the law firm and agreed to testify. The thought of confronting Mr. Harding again filled me with dread, but also with a strange sense of resolve. I was no longer the naive, trusting woman I had been when I worked at the marketing firm. I had been through hell, and I had emerged stronger and wiser. The day of the trial arrived. The courtroom was packed. I saw Sarah sitting in the front row, her eyes filled with support. I took a deep breath and walked to the witness stand. The lawyer began to question me, guiding me through the events leading up to my firing. I recounted the day Sarah had her panic attack, Mr. Harding's cold response, and the subsequent termination of my employment. I described my discovery of the vendor contract, Mark's signature, and the devastating betrayal that followed. My voice trembled at times, but I persevered. I told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Mr. Harding's lawyer tried to discredit me, painting me as a disgruntled employee seeking revenge. But I stood my ground. I refused to be intimidated. I knew that I was doing the right thing. Then it was Mr. Harding's turn to testify. He sat there, arrogant and unrepentant, denying any wrongdoing. He claimed that the data sharing was purely for research purposes, and that he had no knowledge of any illegal activities. He even tried to blame Mark, claiming that he had simply followed the contract that he had signed. I watched him, my blood boiling. He was a liar, a manipulator, and a coward, but I couldn't let my anger consume me. I had to remain calm and focused. The trial lasted for weeks. The jury heard testimony from dozens of witnesses, including Sarah, Mark, and several other former employees of the marketing firm. The evidence against Mr. Harding and the marketing firm was overwhelming. They found Mr. Harding and the marketing firm guilty of violating employee privacy and wrongfully terminating employees. The employees won the class action lawsuit. I felt a sense of relief wash over me. Justice had been served. He looked gaunt and defeated. As he was being led away, he glanced in my direction. Our eyes met. For a moment, I saw a flicker of regret in his eyes, but then he turned away, his face hardening once more. I didn't feel any satisfaction, only a profound sadness. He had ruined so many lives, including his own. After the trial, I received a message from Mark. He wanted to talk. I hesitated, unsure of whether I was ready to face him, but I knew that I couldn't avoid him forever. We met at a park, the same park where I had taken Sarah on the day of her panic attack. He looked tired and worn. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice filled with remorse. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, and I'll never forgive myself." I looked at him, my heart aching. I saw the pain in his eyes, the regret in his voice. I knew that he was being sincere, but could I forgive him? Could I move past the betrayal? "I don't know, Mark," I said, my voice trembling. "I need time. I need space. I need to figure out if I can ever trust you again." He nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. "I understand," he said. "I'll give you all the time you need." We sat in silence for a long time, watching the children play on the swings. The sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park. As I turned to leave, he reached out and took my hand. "I love you," he said. "I'll always love you." I looked at him one last time, then turned and walked away. I didn't know what the future held for us, but I knew that I had to move forward, to heal, and to create a new life for myself. Whether Mark would be a part of that life remained to be seen. The rain started again, a soft drizzle that mirrored the emotions swirling inside me. I walked through the city, lost in thought. The streetlights blurred, painting the wet pavement in shimmering colors. I passed a bookstore, drawn in by the warm light spilling onto the sidewalk. I browsed the shelves, seeking solace in the written word. A title caught my eye. "The Art of Forgiveness." I picked it up, my fingers tracing the embossed letters. Forgiveness. Could I truly forgive Mark? Could I forgive Mr. Harding? Could I forgive myself for the mistakes I had made? The book offered no easy answers, but it provided a glimmer of hope. It suggested that forgiveness wasn't about condoning the actions of others, but about freeing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. It was about choosing to move forward, to let go of the past, and to embrace the possibility of a brighter future. I purchased the book and walked home, clutching it tightly. I spent the evening reading, reflecting on the lessons it offered. Forgiveness was a journey, not a destination. It was a process of healing, of letting go, and of finding peace within yourself. It wasn't easy, but it was possible. I started by forgiving myself for the mistakes I had made. I realized that I had been too trusting, too naive, but that I had also acted with good intentions. I couldn't change the past, but I could learn from it. Then, I started working on forgiving Mr. Harding. This was much more difficult. His actions had caused me so much pain, but I realized that holding on to anger and resentment was only hurting me. It was poisoning my soul. I decided to let go of the anger, to release the resentment. I didn't forget what he had done, but I refused to let it control my life. I called him and asked him to meet me at the park again. This time, the sun was shining. The air was crisp and clean. We sat on the same bench where we had sat months before. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," I said, my voice steady. "And I've decided that I'm ready to forgive you." His eyes widened and tears streamed down his face. "Really?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Yes," I said, "but it's not going to be easy. It's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of work." He nodded, his hand trembling as he reached for mine. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes," he said. "I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." I squeezed his hand, my heart filled with hope. The path ahead would be challenging, but we would face it together. We would rebuild our trust, rebuild our love, and rebuild our life. It wouldn't be the same as before, but it would be something new, something stronger, something more meaningful. The journey had been long and difficult, but I had. And I knew that with forgiveness in my heart, anything was possible. We started slowly, cautiously. Dates that felt more like business meetings than romantic encounters. Talking, really talking, about everything that had happened. The pain, the anger, the regret. It was agonizing, picking at old wounds, but necessary. I had to know that he truly understood the depth of his betrayal, that he wasn't just saying what I wanted to hear. He went to therapy, both individually and with me. He wanted to understand why he'd made the choices he did, the insecurity and ambition that had led him down that path. He laid bare his vulnerabilities, his fears, his deepest flaws. And I listened. I really listened. I saw a man who was genuinely remorseful, a man who was desperate to earn back my trust. But trust, like a shattered vase, is hard to piece back together perfectly. The cracks are always there, visible reminders of the damage. Some days, I felt like we were making progress, building a stronger foundation than we'd ever had before. Other days, the anger would resurface, a tidal wave of resentment threatening to drown us both. I'd find myself questioning everything he said, scrutinizing his actions, searching for any sign of deception. He understood, or at least tried to. He never got defensive, never minimized my feelings. He just listened, apologized, and reaffirmed his commitment to me. Sarah was a rock through it all. She knew how much Mark's betrayal had hurt me, and she supported my decision to give him a second chance, even though she admitted she couldn't imagine doing the same herself. "Just be careful," she'd say, her eyes filled with concern. "Protect your heart." I tried. I really did. But opening yourself up to someone after being so deeply wounded is terrifying. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing that you could fall at any moment. One evening, we were having dinner at home. Mark had cooked my favorite meal, spaghetti carbonara. The aroma filled the apartment, a comforting reminder of happier times. We were laughing, reminiscing about old memories, when the conversation turned to Mr. Harding. A shadow crossed Mark's face. "I still can't believe I ever admired that guy," he said, shaking his head. "He was a monster," I nodded. "He was, but he's gone now, and we're still here." Mark reached across the table and took my hand. "Because of you," he said. "You were the one who had the courage to stand up to him. You saved so many people." I blushed, feeling a surge of pride. "We did it together," I said, "and we're going to keep doing it together." After dinner, we went for a walk in the park. The night was clear, the stars twinkling brightly overhead. We sat on our bench, holding hands, enjoying the silence. "I've been thinking," Mark said, breaking the silence, "about our future." I tensed, unsure of where he was going with this. "I know things have been difficult," he continued, "but I really believe that we can make this work. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to grow old with you. I want to have kids with you." My heart skipped a beat. Kids? We hadn't talked about kids in years. Not since everything had fallen apart. "I don't know, Mark," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that." He squeezed my hand. "I understand," he said. "We don't have to decide anything right now, but I wanted you to know how I feel." We sat in silence again, contemplating the future. The possibility of having a family with Mark, of building a life together, was both exciting and terrifying. Could I really trust him enough to bring children into the world with him? Could I protect them from the kind of pain and betrayal I had experienced? I didn't have the answers, but I knew that I loved him and that I wanted to try. A few months later, we decided to get remarried. It wasn't a grand affair like our first wedding. Just a small, intimate ceremony with our closest friends and family. Sarah was my maid of honor. She cried throughout the entire ceremony. Mark looked happier than I'd ever seen him. As we exchanged vows, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We had been through hell and back, but we had emerged stronger, wiser, and more committed to each other than ever before. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but we would face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart. Time moved on. We took a vacation. We worked in our backyard in the summer. The small things, the everyday moments, stringing together. Not long after our remarriage, we had a baby girl. We named her Hope. She was the light of our lives, a constant reminder of the power of love and forgiveness. He was a doting father, showering Hope with love and affection. He never took her for granted, never forgot how close we had come to losing everything. I watched them together, my heart overflowing with gratitude. We had built a life, a family, a future. We had overcome the darkness, and we had found our way back to the light. We were happy, truly happy. But the scars of the past never completely faded. They were a part of our story, a reminder of the pain we had endured and the strength we had found. One day, years later, I received a phone call from a journalist. She was writing a story about Mr. Harding and the marketing firm. She had tracked me down and wanted to interview me. I hesitated. I had put that chapter of my life behind me. Did I really want to dredge it up again? But the journalist was persistent. She explained that her story could help raise awareness about the dangers of data abuse and protect other employees from being victimized. I agreed to meet her. We sat in a quiet corner of a coffee shop. I told her my story from beginning to end.